Welcome back. You're watching Corporate Corridor. We're having a discussion with Mr. Mumtaz Hassan Khan, CEO and Chairman of HASCOM. And Mr. Mumtaz, we actually did mention the inter-corporate circular debt issue. Now it has touched again another record high level. Previously, the government did take the sweet time in addressing this when the TFC's term finance certificates were issued. Now again, the circular debt has reached a new peak level, and PSO has said that they might be disrupting fuel supply because one has to pay another has to pay the third party. So there is this problem. How are you seeing this?
I think for oil industry, the company which is affected in the largest way is PSO and the refineries, because PSO is the major fuel oil supplier to the IPPs, to WAPDA, to KESC, because when the various IPPs contracts were signed about 15 years ago, government had to give a guarantee for supply of fuel oil, because they were funded by World Bank and IFC or Asian Development Bank, and these financial institutions wanted to have a security of supply, and government passed on that responsibility to PSO. So PSO is the major company which is affected by non-payment of dues by the either companies like HUPCO or WAPDA, and they in turn
importing oil as well.
And then they have to import oil, because if they don't import oil and supply, and if one of these major power utilities like HUPCO or WAPDA or KESC do not produce enough or generate enough electricity because they don't have oil, then you can imagine it will create total chaos in the country.
Chaos, but then again, the government has to tackle this on a top priority basis. Why is it being prolonged?
The government's main problem is that today the cost of generating electricity has gone up. And if you look at the recent agreements which have been signed with rental power projects, the cost of producing electricity is even much higher than the IPPs. The government is not able to recover that cost. Partly there are distribution losses, partly there are certain areas of Pakistan or sections of society who do not pay for their electricity bills. If you look at whole of Upper Sindh, if you look at FATA area, all the electricity which is supplied from there, money cannot be recovered from the end users.
But is there an end to this energy crisis of Pakistan?
I think the end will have to be that government will have to find a way to recover the money, because either then if 30% of the population doesn't pay and only 70% are paying their bill, then they would have to pay more money to subsidize the cost, which can't be recovered from the other 30%.
And subsidies have to be moved out thanks to the IMF.
And that's why the IMF is putting pressure now, that you have to increase the cost of generating electricity, which you are, if it is costing you X, you must be able to recover that cost, because government is not in a position to keep on subsidizing the electricity which is being generated.
And that is why there is going to be another power tariff hike of 13.4% in January.
The government of course can reduce the cost of generating electricity if they were to start making a plan for the long term by using coal, indigenous coal in Pakistan.
And
according to estimates, we have 185 billion tons of coal reserves in Lakhda and Thar coal. That's a lignite coal which is quite suitable for generating electricity. It is being done in Germany, Poland, South Africa. This coal is used. Because if you use your indigenous coal rather than imported fuel oil, your cost of generating electricity will come down considerably. And then you can pass on that benefit to the consumers also.
But why then has Pakistan not held on to this kind of a model? Because you just mentioned Germany, other European giants, developed countries are based on coal, energy being generated from coal. Why is Pakistan different from that?
I don't know why the government, because the planning is done by the Planning Commission and the Ministry of Water and Power and these people. My own guess is that in the 60s and 70s, Pakistan found huge reserves of natural gas. And at that time, gas prices were also very low, and gas was a clean fuel. And once the gas infrastructure was built, we started using gas, and we thought that gas reserves would keep on lasting forever. Unfortunately, gas we have started using in CNG, we are using a lot of gas in domestic consumption, and therefore enough gas is not available.
And there is this gas shortage.
And there is a gas shortage in the country. So we don't have enough gas to meet both the needs for power generation and for our domestic needs and for CNG and for industrial use. So I would strongly urge the government to prioritize the use of gas. They should stop giving all new domestic connections, because we have, as you know, it's become rather fashionable that every time a new government comes to power, all the MNAs want gas to be given to their respective villages or areas they come from. There's a cost involved, and then people don't pay their gas bills. But we should rather utilize that gas for either power generation or for industry like urea and for textile mills, because unless you increase your production, you will not have exports.
Because KESC has also said they were promised 140 MFCFD and they're just being provided 90. So there is that gap, and that has led to a power generation not being at full capacity. Mr. Mumtaz will be taking another quick break here. Stay with us. We're having a discussion with Mr. Mumtaz Hasan Khan, Chairman and CEO of HASCOM, and we're talking about the energy crisis. What plan is there set for the country? We'll be talking about that right after this short break. Stay with us.